Hey guys, me Saram back with another video. So I'm in Toronto. I'm clearly in a hotel room. I did do some walking today, so hopefully I can like consolidate some videos into some walking vlogs. I don't know if they're gonna be long enough, so I might just wait and make one longer video at the end of like the whole trip instead of like shorter videos. So we'll see how that goes. But this is gonna be a totally unrelated video. This is gonna be like a regular old video that I'm just filming here in Toronto on my phone. This video is going to be one that I've actually wanted to make for a really long time about systemic oppression versus individual experiences. This is something that people seem to get confused all the time when it comes to racism, when it comes to colorism, when it comes to all these different types of isms and the way that they play out. People very often get systemic oppression and systemic disenfranchisement confused with individual experiences. Now, the reason why I'm making this video, the catalyst for this video, was that there's a book that is called The Hate U Give, which is kind of based off of Black Lives Matter. And it follows this main character, this young black girl that basically is dealing with the, what's the word I want? The issues, I guess, after her best friend gets killed by police and police brutality. The cover of the book has a dark-skinned black girl with like big curly hair. She is described in the book as having caramel colored skin. Now, I'd probably say that my skin is caramel colored. Apparently, people do not know what caramel looks like because Amandla Steinberg has been cast to play the girl in the movie. And a lot of people have an issue with that because, number one, the cover of the book features a dark-skinned girl. And then you have a lot of people that are saying, well, she's not dark-skinned. She's described as caramel colored in the book. And I'm like, y'all are still tripping because Amandla Steinberg still is not caramel colored. I was like, I don't know what kind of caramel y'all are eating. The caramel you're eating is bad. It's going to kill you. Somebody on Twitter was like, the milk in your caramel has spoiled if your caramel is the color of Amandla Steinberg. Amandla Steinberg is very, very, very light. She is very fair-skinned. So, number one, caramel, like the caramel color versus dark skin excuse is some old bullshit. Even though I do think that we have a lot of like interchangeability between like brown skin and dark skin. Like I have people call me dark skin. I would say that I'm brown skin, not dark skin, and that's not because I've had people also say like, oh, you say that because you don't want to be associated with dark skin. No, that's not true. I don't have any issue with being called dark skin. However, I know some like truly dark skinned girls that get hit with a lot more systemic oppression than I do. Just like I get hit with more systemic oppression than a light-skinned girl, a girl that's like Amandla Steinberg's complexion. Like there are tiers in systemic oppression and in systemic disenfranchisement. So people were start talking about colorism because people were saying the casting of Amandla Steinberg perpetuates colorism and this idea of, you know, lighter skin being the only way that black women can be acceptable. And that is also compounded by the fact that Amandla Steinberg is also biracial, similar to Zendaya, similar to Yara Shahidi, all black girls that are really having a moment right now and that are kind of becoming the go-to for black girls. What's her name? Alexandra Fake Aaliyah, who's biracial. There was like a big thing when that happened because Aaliyah was not biracial. So before we even get into the whole are biracials black or are they not black, in my opinion, this is my opinion, I've talked about this on this channel before, I do consider biracial and mixed race black people black. If y'all want to get into arguing about that in the comments, be my guest. But I feel like if you are visibly black, if the cops look at you and they see a nigga, if you are in danger of getting killed by police like Tony Robinson, use a nigga. You do not have, you know, you can't pull out your I have a white parent card and get out of jail free. So use a nigga. However, saying that does not discount the fact that if you are a lighter skinned biracial person, you are closer to whiteness and you do benefit from white and or light skinned privilege. That is also true. So the reason why I want to start talking about systemic oppression versus individual experiences is because when Amandla was cast, people started having discussions about colorism and how, again, this kind of perpetuates colorism and the ways that lighter skin, especially on black women, are seen as more acceptable than darker skin. And a lot of light-skinned black women started doing what a lot of lighter-skinned black women always do, which is say, we shouldn't be talking about this. This is so divisive. We should just be happy for Amandla. We should just be happy that like a black girl is, you know, getting some shine and getting put on. And, you know, I too have suffered as a light-skinned girl. And I just find it to be so offensive and just really willfully ignorant that you can sit there and say that you as a lighter skinned person receive the same amount of systemic disenfranchisement as a darker skinned person. That's literally a lie. It's false. It's a fucking false statement, okay? It's a false equivalence, okay? Studies have shown, you guys know I'm into the stats, like you guys know I'm the fucking stat queen, right? Studies have shown that the darker your skin is, the harsher your systemic oppression. So systems, right? Systems, infrastructure, school systems, prison systems, you know, government systems, literal infrastructure that's put in place in this country, but also worldwide, because colorism is a global fucking problem. The way that systemic disenfranchisement works, if you have darker skin, you are at a higher, you are a higher chance of being suspended from school. And if you are suspended, it's going to be a longer sentence than a lighter skinned person. If you're at a higher risk of being arrested and facing longer prison sentences than a lighter skinned person. Like, these are systems. This is infrastructure, and these are facts. Like, this is not shit you can fucking argue about. And you have people that want to say, like, well, I was teased for being light-skinned, and, I was teased for having green eyes and red hair, and what about me and my fucking oppression? And you just want to talk about my privilege, but what about my individual experiences? Your individual experiences as a light-skinned person do not trump the systems, the systemic oppression, the systemic disenfranchisement, again, the infrastructure that is in place, government, schools, prisons, and the way that that impacts darker skinned people. You are not oppressed in the same way as darker skinned people, and you should be ashamed. If you are a light-skinned person watching this right now that has said some dumb shit like that, you should be ashamed of yourself, because that's some bullshit, and it's some motherfucking white people shit. The same way that white people fucking complain about, oh, you calling me mayonnaise, it's exactly the same as fucking slavery. It's like, it's not the same. Yes, you are oppressed as a black person. Do not get me wrong. Yes, you are oppressed as a black person, but you are not oppressed in the same way as a darker skinned person. You are not systemically oppressed in the exact same way as a darker skinned person. And you cannot use your individual experiences as some type of proof that you're being systemically disenfranchised in the same way, because it's a false equivalence. It is not true. It is not the same. And we see this really across the board. Again, we see it with colorism. We see it with racism, where white people try to equate their individual experiences of being called mayonnaise with being systemically disenfranchised by a system. We see it when we start talking about continental Africans versus African Americans, which has been like a whole thing, right? When I talked about in my, is African American an ethnicity video and Samuel L. Jackson's comments, there have been studies that have shown that black Americans in America, I started to say in this country, but bitch, I'm not in America right now. There have been studies that have shown that black Americans in America are less likely to be hired for jobs than continental Africans. And the reasoning is because black Americans in America are seen as lower on the totem pole. They're seen as lazier. Continental Africans are seen as hardworking. And there have also been studies that have followed generations that have shown that the further the generations get away from the continental Africans, so you have maybe like the immigrants, the African immigrants that came, the continental African immigrants that came over here, and then you have like the children, the first generation children that were born here, and then you have like the children of children that were born here. The further away you get from, being an immigrant or a continental African, and the closer you come to being seen as a black American, that the systemic, right, opportunities of jobs, of healthcare, of wealth, of prison, the systems start to drop. Right? The closer you become, to being seen as a black American. And these are facts, right? Like, these are facts. Like, these are not just things that I'm making up. And then you have people that want to put their individual experiences of, I was teased by black Americans. I was called an African booty scratcher. I was put in all these horrible situations, which, yes, these situations are fucking horrible. And I'm not denying that you were put in these situations. I'm not denying that you were oppressed as a black person in America and worldwide. However, systemically, your systemic oppression as a continental African is not the same as my systemic oppression as a Black American. Your systemic oppression as a light-skinned person is not the same as the systemic oppression of a dark-skinned person. And we really, really, really have to stop confusing our individual experiences with systemic oppression, like somehow our individual experiences fucking trump that shit. Because your individual experience does not trump a system. And you guys know I talk a lot about collectives and the way that these systems impact collectives and groups. And of course there's always like an exception to the rule, and everybody's going to have their individual experiences, but that doesn't discount the way that these systems work and the way that these systems are designed to impact certain bodies. You guys get what I'm saying? And y'all just really need to stop, because it's fucking gross. Like, it's reached the point in 2017 where it's fucking gross. Like, it's gross. It's disgusting. If you can't understand that despite being oppressed as a Black person in this country, as a lighter skinned person, you do have privilege, and you are not oppressed in the same way as a darker skinned person. Like, there are so many fucking studies, and you know I'm gonna have fucking links in the description box, that prove not just white and Black, which is racism, but colorism, so light skin versus dark skin. There are studies that prove darker skinned people get longer suspensions, darker skinned people get longer prison sentences. Like, darker skinned people are oppressed in a harsher way by the system, and y'all just want to be like, la 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 la, you're being divisive, you're being divisive. I don't want to hear it. It's oppression Olympics. Somebody was like, it's oppression Olympics to talk about the ways that darker skinned people are specifically oppressed in America. That it's oppression Olympics, that instead of talking about it, we should just be trying to come together. How are we gonna fix something that specifically impacts darker skinned people when you niggas can't even fucking talk about it? Get the fuck out of here. And I even hate talking about this shit because I hate the way y'all act. Y'all act just willfully ignorant about the shit. Y'all can understand racism, but not colorism. And it's whack. And it's fucking whack. Hi, honey.
Hi, boo.
I'm recording for YouTube.
Do it.
That's my friend. It's my friend. But yeah, it's like you guys pick and choose. You pick and choose what you can understand, right? You guys understand that Black people are systemically oppressed in a certain way that does not affect white people. But y'all can't understand that darker skinned people are systemically oppressed in a certain way that does not affect light skinned people. But y'all can't understand that Black Americans are systemically oppressed in a different way than continental Africans. My thing is, and I said this exact same thing on Twitter when we were having the continental African versus like Black American debate, because there's really no fucking debate, because I'm not wrong. This is not my opinion. These are just motherfucking facts. My thing is, number one, a lot of this shit boils down to like all of us seeing each other through the white gaze, seeing each other through this like colonized mindset of like, you know, I see you this way, you see me this way. But instead of trying to fucking understand the ways that we are different and embrace our differences and utilize our differences and utilize our different types of privilege to move in different spaces and combat oppression in different types of ways, we prefer to just pretend that there are no differences and like slap a band-aid on these fucking festering ass wounds within the diaspora. And that's just like not gonna work. Like, that's not gonna work. Nobody's gonna motherfucking get free that way. Like, nobody's gonna be liberated that way. And we are talking about a war for like the liberation of Black bodies. And y'all have to get over that shit. Like, y'all have to get over that shit. Like, I'm not light-skinned, but I definitely know that there's darker-skinned people than me that are being oppressed differently than I am, right? People think that I'm like really pretty. People think that I'm like beautiful. So I know I have a certain amount of like privilege that comes with looking the way that I look. So it's like, oh, you here because you think my thumbnail's pretty? Well, you're gonna get this motherfucking message too. Like, y'all have to get over the shit. Y'all have to get over confusing individual experiences and fucking hurt feelings and shit with systemic motherfucking oppression. Y'all have to get over it, seriously. And it's gross. It's disgusting. The way y'all are acting about this Amanda Steinberg shit, when you have darker skinned Black women that are just trying to say, this is how I feel like I'm being erased because here is a cover of a book with a dark skinned girl. Here is a book with a girl that's being described as caramel, and you're looking at me in my face and you're saying there's no problem. And you're saying that light-skinned girls and dark-skinned girls are exactly the same. Y'all know that's not true. And y'all should be ashamed for even saying that dumb shit. Seriously. have to stop confusing systemic oppression with individual experiences. And like I said, we can understand it when we're talking about white people, but all of a sudden when we start talking about, you know, division within niggas, all of a sudden niggas get amnesia and they can't fucking understand the shit. So I'm gonna say it one more time. Systemic oppression is not the same as individual experiences. You can have your individual experiences, but that does not mean that you are being systemically disenfranchised the same as your next fellow black person, right? Okay. Here in Toronto, gonna get some walking vlogs up, definitely. Having tons of fun. See you guys next time. Peace.